Hello, beautiful souls. All right, so yeah, I've been having an interesting time. I've been having some messages come in, especially through dream time, that I don't really like getting. Mainly about what's coming. And I don't really like talking about prophetic kind of stuff, and I've probably said it here, I say it all the time, is that timelines are not fixed, no matter how much certain people or certain groups of people would like you to think so. But last night I had a really wild dream. And I think I've said it on here, but I've been in this period of what I'm going to call retooling. I started out here as a teacher in this life. Well, you know what I mean, when I got to choose. I've done a lot of different jobs. But it's interesting. So I'm like, well, what is this new thing that I'm going to be doing? Because I went from teaching to doing readings to doing, healing sessions and, grid work. Let's see what else. I don't know, so much. Psychopomp, crossover work. Whatever. I've been called in to do all kinds of things. So I'm like, what is next? And I keep getting this message, through like direct messaging, but also if I usually at night I sit down and I flip through YouTubes and I don't watch TV. So I try to catch a reading, some kind of tarot or oracle reading, or you never know, some kind of message before I go to sleep. But all of the messages lately have said that I'm going to be moving, which I've been feeling for some time now. And not just, there's a lot of movement in my field. I feel like I'm going to be actually moving. I don't know where. And I'm a planner, so this has definitely been a challenge, because I don't just, like, all of a sudden, I've been in this house that I'm in for 22 years. It seems like it's about time to go. But I keep getting the message that it's time to go. And a lot of different reasons for that, and a lot of it I'm probably not going to talk about here, but some of it has to do with the housing bubble. And in my divorce, I really only got property. Whatever. And so I almost own all of my properties outright. Very little on them, which is great, except that if the bubble bursts and all of a sudden what was worth a certain amount is now only worth half, it's like the what was it, 2006 crash. But anyway, what I've been seeing and feeling, and then I have friends that are also messaging me going, it's about the 1970s. And of course I looked it up, and the Yom Kippur War kicked off this whole decade of embargoes. Well, the embargoes didn't last a decade, but the financial ramifications of the oil embargo embargo that Iran instituted was a big deal. Inflation went up to 14%. Mortgage rates were 18%. We think they're high now. There was rationing on gas. There were lines at all the gas stations. Sometimes regular old Joe Schmoes like me couldn't get gas, and it was only available for, commercial rigs. Very interesting time. And what is even more fascinating is the players are the same. Israel, the United States, and Iran. Anyway, the Federal Reserve at that time, that was part of how they got us out of that gridlock in the economy, was that they raised interest rates and it eventually ended up stabilizing everything. But really, ever since then, we had the 80s, which early 80s was kind of tough for some people. Late 80s was almost, I would say, a period of excess, into the 90s where we had all the tech stuff, right? So it's been pretty, on the upward swing, except for a few, I call them hiccups along the way. But financial stuff keeps coming in. And don't get me wrong, I'm a smart cookie. But it's also the history in line with the financial issues that many people are having now. I know many people who are, they have a house, they own a house, and something has happened with their job, or they've, everything has been working fine in their lives until now, because they're feeling like they need to sell their house, but then they're not sure they will be able to get something else because, maybe they're not making as much money, because a lot of people are being, I'm going to say demoted. It's not really demoted. It's when you're offered the same, like a decrease in pay for doing the same job. That's happened to 2 people in my inner circle. No thanks. But that's the way that businesses try to pass on the financial squeeze onto their employees. And we are being squeezed, that's for sure. Yeah, I saw a lot of things with water. There's going to be drought. So make sure that you have access to water and that you have access to something to purify the water that you have access to. And water is one of those things where you can't keep it indefinitely, but yeah, we can't live very long without water. And it just, I guess this whole data center thing, whatever, just has me shaking my head. At a time when most of the Western United States is in drought status, I can't even believe that they are talking about putting anything like that in. It makes no sense. There is only a certain amount of water available until we begin to, use more of a desalination process. But even so, that has to be shipped or transported. or whatever, and that takes, of course, fuel, or building pipelines. But I mean, that's years out. So I'm like, make this make sense. And something is not right with all of this. I mean, yeah, I'm in Washington State, so we tend to be very environmentally friendly. But this is different. You know, like my friend in Utah is like, they're putting a ginormous, the biggest one in the United States is planned to go into Utah, and Utah is already at drought status. Like, they're not supposed to turn their outdoor irrigation on, even though it's been upper 80s. So, I mean, I realize that big, ginormous mega corporations have been at the top of the food chain for a while now, but are we really going to let them have access to such a vital resource? And for what? Because I'm telling you, there's something off about these. They're not what they say they are. Everybody's like, well, you know, I like my AI, so I like the data centers. I'm like, oh my gosh, why do people believe any of this? There's something so off about it. And they're like, well, you just don't know what you're talking about, Sally. I'm like, yeah. I never said I knew exactly what it was. I just know they're lying. Because my inner lie detector is on point. And something is not right here. What are they bringing online where they will need so much more of these servers? Think about that. Right? Because we're already all connected. But why do they need so many more? I will tell you that in my heart of hearts, I believe it has something to do with all these vaccines they are creating for all of us to have. And I know that some would say we are already connected to the Internet of Things, but I'm saying that they're going to connect us all. And that's why they need all of this. That's why they need all these more additional data centers. And who knows, it could be something else entirely that I haven't even, conceived of yet. But that's what I was starting to say. My team keeps telling me that I think differently than a lot of other people. Right? I'm like, that's not a surprise. I do. And I really always have. And that a lot of people do not see things in the same way that I do. But just because I see things differently does not mean that I am not correct in my, however I've ascertained reality, ascertained intention or motives or even end game. So anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit about that. I know I've been writing some very serious, very kind of odd messages than I usually write and share. They're not really spiritual in nature. They're more, it's not for the fear of thing, not for fear, but for preparation. And it's so confusing right now, and they're trying to keep everybody like, oh, what's going on, that a lot of people don't know what to think. And we're going to have to feed ourselves. Or I don't know what we're going to do, because the amount of inflation that my team says that we're going to see are going to be historic. I mean, yeah, they just said that the Great Depression is going to be nothing compared to what we're about to go into. If we stay on the same timeline. Part of the reason why I'm talking about it and why I'm sharing about it is because if people are prepared in a normal, non-freaked out way, in a way where, you know, we start having our own pantries, where we start growing our own food, where we maybe keep our own chickens if we can, you know, we start not outsourcing our food situation. Maybe we start, you know, learning how to do our own repair work. You know, maybe we start to, you know, make and sew our own clothes. And, you know, maybe we start accumulating some of these things that might all of a sudden become unavailable. And I know after such a period of excess and having everything at your fingertips, not only at your fingertips, you can order it up on Instacart and it'll be at your house within like 20 minutes. A lot of people have not been keeping even a regular old emergency supply. And being in the Northwest, I mean, I'm used to having somewhat of emergency stash. Kind of have to be careful because our fridges and our freezers go out sometimes, especially with the big storms. And, you know, I feel lucky to have access to a generator, but it's only for a certain amount of time until we assume that they're going to get the power back on. But what if the power doesn't come back on? Do you have food that you can eat without relying on a grocery store? Or I'm not sure. I mean, no power, those places are not open. They close. You know, do you have extra gas stored? Yeah, for your car. Because what happens is when the power goes out, the gas station pumps don't work either. Anyway, I don't know. I've been in this mode since before COVID of emergency supply. And every time I get pretty good, and then Maddie likes certain things I've been stockpiling, and so now I gotta order them all again. But my team, they keep telling me, start making these small shifts now, because meat is gonna be outrageously expensive. You might not be eating meat every day, every meal. Carnivores, I don't even know what's going to happen. Having chickens so you can at least have eggs at least certain part during certain times of the year, right? I don't know. It's a very interesting message, and very kind of unlike some messages I've been given before, but you just gotta be prepared. And I'm not gonna say it's, you know, the 3 days, whatever the heck all these people are talking about, all this stuff. I get very clear messages, and other than some events that are going to seem like natural disasters and are actually not. That's all I've been given. So I'm being asked to move, make major changes in how I'm living, where I'm living, how I'm eating, all of it. It's time to downsize to be able to maintain a certain level of safety and security. Before, where maybe the goal was to have a nice house on a nice street, with a nice yard and, lots of windows and, many bedrooms. Now I'm like, nope, I need it smaller. I need it a certain way so that I can do the repairs myself. I don't need to hire somebody. With like 30-foot ceilings, I can't do that. I have to have a scaffolding. I have to get up there. I have to do the whole thing. I mean, I could. I don't have a scaffolding. So now all of a sudden I have to buy a scaffolding. And I have to buy the, it seems like I am over the excess. I'm going to be trading down for something way more practical, way more feasible, that I can handle myself. Anyway, I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to find out, those of you that are watching, what are you getting in? What are you knowing about all of this? What is your gut, your intuition, your guides, whatever, what do you feel is going to happen? And by being prepared, we are actually a calming force within the collective. We actually are taking some of this panic and intensity out. Especially if we actually listen and we're prepared. Because at that moment of panic, of whatever it is, right? The people that have not been preparing, it'll be too late. So if you get that little urge to pick up a case of water or whatever, just do it. There's certain things that I have been buying extras of, because I know there's a problem with the wheat, and that is a major problem. So wheat, tomatoes, coffee, beef, and chicken. Yeah. So that's it. And any oddball parts that you might need. Maybe you have something that breaks a lot and you can know how to fix it. I would order a backup. Anyway, I know it's not my usual thing, but I'm feeling compelled to share this and to say it's a little upsetting now, don't get me wrong, but being prepared now, we have the time to get prepared. That's what my team keeps saying. A little bit here, a little bit there, but not complacent. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you all. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'll share more again later. Bye.